is okay?
Yes, everything works properly, I think. I'm going to make some presentations. Here we have Elena Radaelli, artist from Italy, and Matterlurgy, artist duo from UK, Mark and Helena. And today we are here for present FLOM Album. These limited editions of experimental sound art album that is called FLOM. And I will begin telling you a little story of how this album was conceived and how we are presenting here today. Elena, Matterlurgy, me, Damian, Vega, I didn't introduce myself, and Kjetil Kristensen, an artist from Oslo that sadly cannot join us together today, sorry. We were selected for a residence program in the Dalane district. We were assigned, each one of us, to a municipality, including Moi, Lund, Egersund, Sukendal, and Bjerkreim. So each one of us were there for a period of 2 months, if I remember correctly, and we developed different pieces of art and projects there, and they were presented all during a festival. And so we met each other, all of us, in several meetings, and during one of these meetings, we knew from other people that Vinyl Factory was opening doors in Egersund. That's the place where I actually live, and we were talking that it would be really interesting, since so some of us were working with audio also, especially Matterlurgy, how interesting will be to show in a vinyl album this kind of art. And so in that moment there was an application for funds to develop an undetermined project. So we applied here in Rogaland Kunstsenter, and they we received the news that we were selected for receive this stipend, and we present a project for make this album, and here it is. After quite a lot of time, actually, because this album was, the publishing of the album was very delayed for many reasons, between it Corona times and all, and it was developed after our residence. We were working on distance, so it was a little, nowadays it's easy in some ways, but it takes more time. We were not doing it together in a physical place, so yes, but finally it's here, and it consists in 4 tracks. In the case of, in my case, it's a spoken word piece, let's say a poem with music or sound. Elena, the sounds and an ambient landscape, sound landscape with recordings taken from her residence. The same thing with Matterlurgy, but the piece here took part of one installation they made. And the last one is a curated track taken from, included in this album by an artist, and he developed this track together with other 2 artists, in this case hip hop or rap artists. So the result is quite interesting. In the beginning, we didn't have we didn't set any limitations to how the final product will be, or I don't think even we decided to have to be something directly related with our residence. So the result was unpredictable. We didn't know exactly what each one of us will come up with, except maybe Matterlurgy, because you already developed a sound piece during the residence that is here recorded. So yes, I think this is the introduction to what FLOM is. It's a very experimental sound art album. It's not exactly, I would say, it doesn't respond to the same demands that music album, for example. It's it was, for example, properly mastered for vinyl for this format, because vinyl needs to be adjusted to this format. The sound needs to be treated by professionals for sound good in an album, let's say. But for many of us, I would say, let's say Elena and me, for example, we were not. It was the first time you were doing something. Yes, me too. So we actually, I tried to collaborate with some musics for my track, but I was not able. So at the end, I finished doing all the work myself, and it was the first time I worked with audio. So well, the result is homemade in some way, but professionally recorded in vinyl, and at the end, the vinyl was produced in here in Stavanger, instead of that factory there in Egersund. Because when we had the album ready for produce, this factory closed. Fortunately, another one opened here in Tovesin, in Stavanger, and they made a great job. We we made as much copies as we could, 100 only. So it's kind of a rarity of album in the content and in the number of the number of items that were produced. Well, I'm jumping from one thing to another one. I try to make a resume of what this thing is, but I think we were happy with the result. I remember that the first time I talked with people here in Rogaland Kunstsenter, with Kjetil, for example, she said to me, well, here we like to promote projects which final result is not completely planned from the beginning. The outcome is experimental. Let's see what the projects drive to, and this was the case. But I think that is quite it keeps quite a equilibrium in the content and all, because two of the pieces are ambient sound and the other two are kind of more musical at the end. Like more near to hip hop, rap, or electronic music. So there's a good equilibrium, and yes, I think I'm running out a little of things to say. But what I would like you to do now is to introduce your, let's say, put your pieces in context if you want, with the residents. If you want, for example, Elena, tell us a little about your experience in Bjerkreim.
Yeah.
The work you developed there and how it relates to the album.
Yes. So as you said, it was the first time for me to develop a sound project, which was very exciting and a little bit scary because it was very experimental. To record the sound with myself. And then luckily I have friends that are sound artists, and then through conversation, and then I started to explore more, and then a friend of mine from Estonia, Lili Tolp, shared me with the editing of the piece. So I was very lucky to have support and a kind of guidance in this project. But the idea we had together to try to work with sound for me was really interesting, because there is also something I'm really drawn to, the sound part of my work, especially when it comes to the making process, because I always work with specific material that they relate to places. And what I'm interested in is also the process of working with them and working with people together. So the sound, it kind of added a layer to this idea, and my project was focusing on the making, with people, and I recorded the sound of making. And I discovered that the sound of making felt, because my project is made with felt technique, it is kind of recalling the sound of water of making process. So I really like this connection between the making and this kind of bubbling wrap I was using, making a so it was really funny and interesting to discover this connection, and also the relation with the FLOM. I think it was really meaningful then, adding this layer of sound to the sculpture. And it was really also important to work with different people and understand better what was the relation between the people that live in Björkreim and the water and the wool, which were two of the most important parts of my project.
If you allow me, Elena, I forgot to say that, the title of the album is FLOM, and it was the theme that we were working with during the residence, because all these communities have big problems with floods. They wanted to represent all this relationship with nature they have through some artistic pieces. And you, in your case, you were working with textile.
Yes. I work with wool because it's really important material for Rogaland and for Björkreim. So it's really connected to the story of the place and the story of the people. So it's a very exciting material and it's so wonderful. I mean, I've never seen such a good kind of wool in other places. I was really lucky to be able to work there. And yes, so it's really tied to the place. And then I also work with local people, with the local farmers, and then with school, with 3 classes of the school. And I was working in the Kulturskole. So it was also a very inspiring environment.
Mm-hmm. Good. If I remember correctly, you used sounds. You were working the wool in a special way, and you recorded the sounds. People was helping. So this process, I remember you were making friction or something for cover your installation at the end, right?
Yeah, because it was basically the process of felting is kind of pushing the fibers of wool together to become a cloth. So then I used it to cover a wooden structure that reminds a little bit of a wave. So yeah, that was the idea. But then it also changed a lot. And I realized how different it is to take a material from a place where it's really understood to another place, because I exhibited the same kind of wool in UK after this project in Norway, and it was a completely different feeling for me and for the people that experienced the piece.
Mm-hmm. I'm showing now a PDF with photographs from the process while you were making felt, and I see here wool in the snow. This photograph is beautiful, and
and I think that one of the most interesting things was going to the farmer to see the sheep. So there is a short movie, short clip of the sheep in the farm eating.
Yes,
and
here they are. Very important people. Yes.
Yeah, and also the sound of this is part of the soundtrack.
When they are chewing.
Chewing, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's another video here. You sent me another video, I think. Yeah.
And this is also part of the soundtrack, because it went like shh.
Mm-hmm. How long you had to do this for that?
Well, we were working with the students and local people, so I was alone most of the time, but then I had a lot of help, and it took like 3-4 weeks. Don't remember really, but It was a long time.
I think I didn't show the final sculpture you made. I will show it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see here the people that was helping you, and here's some sketches and the structure in wood.
Yeah.
And this was the
And this
final
is
result.
the final piece.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is actually the area that gets flooded very often.
Yeah, and actually, when I show the picture, everyone they don't really understand the material, and they think it's very similar to a rock or something like a stone, and I think it is very similar to the landscape on.
I think later you can make some questions if you have any doubt. But now I think we can ask Matterlurgy for their project also. So,
Yeah.
how was your experience in Sukendal?
Amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was really it was so full on and busy like at that time, because we were there for, was it 5 or 6 weeks? I can't remember. And we kind of engaged with the local school in Sokndal and also the brass band, and then we also had our own practice of kind of writing and sound alongside that. So it was really vibrant time for us, wasn't it, overall? And we enjoyed it. And it's, I think when you make work as well, it's just nice to give yourself over to it fully, like in a residency period where you kind of can just make, and there's no split between life and making. It's just all one thing, and it was a really beautiful experience. Like,
that's why it was so good that it was a residency, and we'd done like, you know, previous site visits as well when we went there prior to the, you know, to the time when we all did our residencies. It was great to have a like long lead in and to get to know the community, and also working with you know, two kind of, well, actually 3 kind of cultural sort of ambassadors in the area who really helped us connect with the community. So Mike and Steen and Tuna, who actually worked in the local council, and Tori Peterson, who was the kind of leader of this brass band, and the local school, Sokndal School as well, where really the head teacher was just phenomenal in opening up, you know, her all the classes to our work, and allowing us to work with the you know, 3 different classes in a really kind of hands-on way. You know, we worked with them for quite a long time to sort of produce the soundtrack. But Matt can talk more maybe about how we worked with the children, and then also with the brass band as well.
Yeah, you actually recorded children just playing with the microphones. I find it kind of amazing. How was to work with them? And
I don't know how we did it. It was like the best kind of chaos you can imagine. Really, it was really lovely. And yeah, so the piece was part of the final installation in the Yossingford hydropower station, and it was surrounded by video and text and different things.
We've got some pictures actually, haven't we?
Yeah.
I will show some pictures on your website.
Yeah. And the sound work was kind of an integral part of a broader mixed media kind of installation. But the actual sound work was kind of like 3 components to it. So there was the work with the kids, like you say, in Sokndal School, and there was 2 sets of kids. There were
super young
6-year-olds, and then there was kind of like 12 to
16.
And that was one component of the sound piece, and we kind of developed this idea of the aquasonic choir. So we're really interested in the children's like imaginations and how they live with flooding, rather than hearing from, you know, sort of so-called experts all the time. It was interesting to kind of like gauge how the kids live with this and how they imagine their futures as well. And so we worked with them through a series of workshops, and the really younger ones did workshops where they were we'd go out and record some of the River Sokna in sound, and we'd make underwater recordings, we'd make above water recordings, and then we'd get them to kind of interpret that and to think with that, and then to also sound it. and they tried to kind of mimic different flows of water and different intensities of water, stomping their feet, clapping their hands, like using their vocal kind of range to interact with that materiality. And we would record that, and that fed into the work.
Yeah, so the workshops, I mean, it was like a choir basically. They were the choir, and they vocalized the sound of water, the different intensities of water, anything from a waterfall to rain to a trickle stream, you know. And so that we managed to kind of capture that in the workshop through, like you say, Damian, microphones. We had a series of microphones set up in the space, and then they were kind of composed later into the track.
And the older group, do you want to talk about that?
So the older group, so we did a series of river writing exercises with the older group, where we actually went to the river Sockner, and we sat with the river, and we invited them to do different writing exercises that was really responding to the water, using their imagination, to think with it, to reflect on it, and to think about actually their relationship to water and flooding. And they would compose actually amazing texts, which then we got them to speak back, and we recorded those. And we also invited them to think about like the future and what they might design to sort of live with water, how they might appropriate different kinds of animal technologies into human technologies to think about how we might survive in a flood.
Is this the text you can hear in your track?
Yes.
It's like a poem.
It's like a kind of layered spoken word, kind of poem that kind of, it's all the different voices kind of layered up, and you can kind of make out little snippets of their own kind of poetry or stories and texts, which is a kind of a short kind of moment in the work. And then we've obviously got the music corps. There was an amazing group of mostly I think miners or ex-miners,
a lot of them,
who had who had this amazing band, and they were just so experimental with us. We asked them to sort of think about how they could make or interpret the sound of water through their instruments, but not by
music concreto, a little like that. Like use the instrument for imitator,
so like using breath and the sound of the keys, and putting water down and inside the instruments, then playing underwater, this kind of thing.
But this is when you ask about how was it and stuff, this is what was lovely about the whole experience, that people were so generous with us and wanted to kind of like engage with our thoughts and process. And when we went to the brass band, the very first time, we were like explaining our ideas, and they were only half formed at that time, really. But Torre was just like, let's go for it. And he just kind of threw like a trumpet into a big bucket of water and just started playing it. And we were like, okay, these people are amazing. This is going to be fine.
Willing to do that,
yes.
And Torre Pedersen, who's the kind of composer leader of the band, he also scored a piece as well. So he actually notated and wrote a piece of music for the work, which was then played, which was absolutely beautiful. Like, we couldn't believe that he did that. It was such a lovely gift to the actual composition as well. And then, as Matt said, this is all woven through our own field recordings and field writings. So Mark recorded a lot of like from the source of the river to the kind of mouth of the river where it goes out to the sea, lots of different recordings of water at different stages of its journey.
Recording the track is so rich in layers that every time I listen to it, I discover new things. And it really drives you to the point that sometimes I don't realize even that I'm listening to child voices, but I imagine that they are water or I don't know, or rocks falling because of the water. It's very, very nice. And together with Elena's piece, I think they make the middle journey of the album, because you get into with Elena's piece, you get into a world that looks sometimes like a storm of accumulating noise, and it comes down. There's something a moment where you hear something electric, I think. I don't know why. This is very, very nice. And then your piece. And in the edges of the album, we have my track and Kjetil's track. Yeah. So that was very nice.
About yours, Damian, like what was the inspiration behind, you know, your track? And because it's a really beautiful piece and nice to sort of unfold that. Like, how did it begin? You know.
The thing is that in my case, it's not so related with my residence in directly related with the outcome of my residence in Egersund. But anyways, I will show what was my work there in my website. I work mainly with printmaking, with prints, trick. And lately I work a lot with woodcut. I carve images on wood and print in editions in paper. So, well, it's a very classic technique, and actually the oldest of printing techniques. Edvard Munch was a master of this, for example. Picasso and all the great artists consider secondary art, but because it's very limited and very rough in the effects. But yeah, it consists in carved wood in a plate that is called matrix. So for this residence, it was about flood. So I created these matrices, but I never printed them. Instead, I hang them in the streets like street art. So they represent objects that have been destroyed by the flood. And for me, in a symbolic way, they represented the cycle of destruction and regeneration of things, and how that is, you know. So here, for example, we have a broken chair, a broken summer plastic chair, simply something that hasn't any importance or has any value, but yeah, she has managed to paste itself again and keep in its shape, despite of the something like that. It was it's quite. I leave the interpretation of the things I do very open. I calculate what the people can interpret, but I leave it open so people can complete it with their own ideas and imagination. For example, this was an imaginary notebook that has the title of My Imaginary Book of Poems. That is a long story for another occasion, but it's called Levels and a Bed Second. So the experience of 1 second, experience of a second. And yeah, it's a kind of book that has been dumped in water and almost destroyed, that it keeps there. And it has at the same time something related to the geography inside, like a river or rain. Or that. Yes, it's, as I said, open interpretation. This is something, yeah, another object. Long story also, but well. This is a boat motor, for example. I kind of got fascinated by the image. I don't know why. I could talk about the cover of the album. This was a photograph. In the beginning, we wanted to count with a designer, graphic designer, but well, the budget was a little tight for this. And at the end, we made the design ourselves. And yeah, we chose a photograph I made in Moi, actually. And it's just a boat motor inside a room when outside it's supposed to be a flood. So I thought, yeah, that this will make a good contrast and excite a little imagination. So here I made another plate. There's a boat motor. Yeah, during a flood, I guess it's quite important to have that if the flood is big. Yes. At the same time, they work a little like that. You see, like totems or something. Yeah. Again, open to interpretation. Washing machine that's broken and works improperly. The idea was to see how also the weather and the rain and the bad weather affects these plates. And then after some years, maybe they print them and made an edition with them. The idea was to take out of context the called matrix that generates the prints. Yes, and mural, express mural that got a little wet and kind of destroy itself a little during the days. Now it's almost there's almost nothing left there. So as you see, and well, the track. Yes, I don't want to stand myself too much. The track is not so directly related to this because I also, from a long time ago, I write poetry. So, but it's kind of experimental, and I didn't see it like published in an ordinary way, never in the shape of a book of poems. So I saw here an opportunity of maybe use this so-called spoken word, this genre where maybe there's music or there's sound. And the thing is a very interesting genre because it's not so easy to find examples of this through music history. I was making a compilation of a lot of artists and all, but it's kind of rare because immediately falls into rap or hip hop. So there are examples. Actually, here in Norway, I found, for example, this Jenny Wahl artist is brilliant doing this in her albums. And I think it gives the opportunity of making something that is not exactly musical, but creates an ambient with the sound and a person. It gives more freedom for express more ideas. You are not limited so much with the lyrics. You have to sing them or match them in a music. So it's very interesting. So I made several versions of the track, and at the end it finished like a poem with some actually trip hop type of music also. But it was the first thing I did. I fell in all the sonic traps, and I mixed it myself. I tried to collaborate with other musicians. It didn't work at the end. They couldn't join me, so I did it all myself. But it was a really interesting experience. I recorded a lot of more material, and since then I am working with electronic music, and I'm very excited with it. I have material for an album, and I got really into this. It was a good experience for me. And the poem talks a little about. I took a flood in a symbolic way because flood is considered the myth of big floods, like for example in the Bible. It's present in many cultures and in many religions. It's repeated again and again and again since the old times, and it always have a sense of symbolic sense of a punishment from the nature or from God, because there has been corruption in some way, and because the humans have failed in prevent a catastrophe or in protect themselves or make the right thing for protect themselves against that catastrophe, and then it has catastrophic consequences. That's the reason of the punishment, and at the end, that is the concept, I think. And I was having that in mind when I wrote the poem, but it's actually an old poem that talks in a ironic, sarcastic way about some ruined holidays. It's like an advertisement that is selling you a perfect holiday, a horrible holiday actually. And that could be the consequences if we don't take care of our environment. And I think that's the general tone at the end of the album. I think it has a tone that is ecologist. And actually, yeah, enough talking about my track. Actually, the last track is called, has a very difficult name to pronounce for me in Norwegian, Knivstikkervisa, Knivstikkervisa, yeah. It's more or less the translation, if I am not wrong, is the stab tuning. And it's very aggressive. It's a kind of eco-gangster rap that is telling you, protect the nature or I will stab you. We were having kind of a little discussion if this was appropriate to publish, but I always thought that it was an experimental project, so why not showing some experimental genre music, and I think sometimes we take too much seriously the sinister pieces of art or the aggressive pieces of art, because actually it's like any other piece of art. It's just that the artists go a little further in their imagination or in their pushing the boundaries, you know. But let's not forget that it's art. It doesn't mean nothing real necessarily. But it's aggressive because it wants to be aggressive, and to be aggressive you have to use aggressive words. So yeah, it's explicit lyrics, this track, and I kind of like that. Found this place too. Sad that Kjetil Kristensen cannot join us today, but well, I talk a little about his piece. It's actually, make a good work, I think. So I think I am not forgetting nothing. The poem is in Spanish. At the end, I decided to use my mother tongue because or language, because it will be recorded in a list. I count with the poem expressed in its original version. I included a translation in the album, and the sound inside the album, and together with some text that we included inside, I think they will get a quite long experience in the album when people listen to it. You know that vinyl in the last years has a total revival. People is collecting. It's actually a valuable item. It's not like maybe not like a CD or like listening music stream nowadays, because you know how it is nowadays. We just change one song after the other one, but the vinyl kind of obligates you to make a ritual and take your time for listening to album or piece of art. So yeah, I think that's all I can say. So I guess we should open a round of questions. If you have some questions, you can ask us, or if you have some doubts, or yes.
How has the experience of making a record been? Will you make more records in the future?
Together,
Yeah,
or individually. I would love to make whatever thing together again. I hope then we are seeing each other in front of other and collaborate in the future. And I don't know what you think. me individually, I think I will in the future I will publish some kind of album. I'm working now in ambient music and also kind of club music, and also same thing I did here with poems, just with sound in the background of music. I really got into this thing. I learned it by myself, and well, but I think I will slowly begin to publish in a humble way and platform just for people to listen to it. And what was I want to ask Matterlurgy about how it was for you to have your work published, or did you do it before? I mean, do you have any sound recorded before?
Yeah, I did like my sort of individual practice, but
so Mark's a sound artist.
Yeah,
so that's kind of his primary medium. So you've kind of
I've done vinyl before and released, you know, digital work and CDs. Like, seems like a long time ago now. Like CDs are really old or something, but back in the days when CDs were still going. But I think for us, like as a duo, we are always working with sound and writing and performance as well. So I'm sure we'll do something else in the future, because it's an exciting space, and often you can, I don't know, like this was sort of plucked from the actual installation that we did for the festival, but we're always kind of recording and thinking with sound as well. So there's so many like offcuts and different types of B-sides that could have been this track as well. And so I'm sure we'll do something, maybe, you know, not necessarily with this material, but it's always informing our own practice. So
it was really satisfying though to land it together with you in this kind of collaborative format, and also just to have, because and I don't know about you guys, but there was sort of many ways in which the projects kind of had found form. So there was these workshops, but there was also like this installation of films that we did. And the sound, this kind of surround sound work installed in this huge hydropower station. And then we did a series of like screenings, because we worked with a filmmaker, a local filmmaker, to sort of document what we'd done. And that film also became part of the installation. So having these different forms and different ways that the work and the residency itself could reach people was really important to us, and the vinyl is one of them, the installations another, the workshops another, the films that we made are another kind of way. So it was really, for us, it was really satisfying to have something to make afterwards, and to also sort of document what we sort of made, the sound work itself. I
think as well, because all of our works really were engaging with the landscape, which always is it's got that kind of transience attached to it, like it's not permanent artworks as such, and so to have a kind of place for that, and or a way to kind of hold that in the future is just,
I guess, registered for the future. That's I find very interesting with projects like this.
I'm curious about Eleni, because Eleni, was this your first time making a sound work, or have you?
Yeah.
I love
it. It was the very first time.
I love it.
No, and it's something for me super special to have a vinyl. Like I have a piece which is being released like this, and it sounds like I'm a pop star or something. So it's like, whoa.
It feels like that, but that's why I want to make clear that it's it has the shape of a vinyl, but it's another thing that a music album. It's more like something documental, something at the same time experimental, and result or not from a residence. So that's very. So yes, well, the album is available if somebody wants to acquire it and buy it, and there's only 100 copies. So it's already a rarity.
Super rare.
Super rare. That's why our intention with the promotion and distribution was to place it in centers that appreciate this kind of projects, and they can take care of it for the future, in case somebody find it inspiring and interesting, and also sell it to the public. But there's only 100 copies. Yes.
So this album is a sort of documentary. Is the only documentary that is left from your stay here in Norway? Because you didn't make permanent artwork. You placed your artwork outside and left it.
Yes, and it depends on the case. The work mainly was not permanent. Not in the case of Kjetil, for example. Elena, your piece is semi-permanent because the weather will ruin it eventually. The same.
It has changed because it stayed like a wave, like a wave of wool for like 6 months, and then the wool was taken away, and now the platform apparently is still there. So it changed over the time.
Yes, just like street art, this is meant to be not permanent and gets destroyed with the time. In my case, some of the plates I show still are there. One was taken, broke. I broke it. Another one was torn down with a building. Yes, and it was torn down with a building. But I took it and saved it to I still have to hang it in another place. So they are around, and they are still there, watching people.
The wool work, where is it?
In Bjerken. And she says right now that it's still there, but the wool was taken from there. The structure is still there. So
then there is not catalog? No catalog?
No, we do not have any. Yes, it's kind of the legacy of that time and what we did. Actually, inside it describes a little what was made during the residence and all that. And also we have a website for this album where we added some photographs of the residence too, so it gets documented in the website too. You can visit it. Hope that answers your question. Well, and the plan is that after this we will play the album a little, and just we have a vinyl player there, and we can have a coffee and talk a little and enjoy, and yeah.
Damian, can I just say, I just want to say thank you to you for organising all of this, first and foremost, because you've been amazing. Also in kind of coordinating the vinyl and how it kind of came together. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, especially in the last year and a half when there's been an intense situation.
Thank you very much. I really wanted to ask to make this, and well, I was the person that was here, that remained here in Egersund, so I was the contact. Yes, I really try to make the best of it. It's difficult sometimes to focus in this when you have we all have a lot of projects aside, but slowly we were constructing it and releasing it, and it was an experience because releasing an album is a process. It's everything, even it demands a lot of stuff, the graphic design, get together all the texts, mixing the pieces. It was mastered in London by a very good sound engineer, an artist also.
Colin,
especially for vinyl, and it was perfectly produced by the factory in here in Towesin. That is very recent, but they made an amazing work. They were fast, and the work was fantastic. And
And Eleni also for the website that she did. Eleni put the website of the vinyl together, and also obviously to Rogaland Kunstsenter for kind of hosting the event, and also they were partners, weren't they, in the Dalane Kulturfestival. So thanks to them.
Thank you to all of you. It was really exciting to work together, even from a distance, and maybe we can do it again somewhere next time.
We'll meet again.
Thanks so much.
Okay, then, well, I guess it's time to say goodbye for the moment.
Yeah.
And we will have a physical party here for a while.
Enjoy.
Wish me luck.
Hasta la última palabra. Sálvese quien pueda y al final, amor más allá de lo previsto. Muy bien, perfecto. Ahora no te hagas el listo. No te distraigas. Coge su mano y amárrate al palo. Aquí viene una tormenta, como nunca la has visto. Una calma anormal te ha inundado las venas, una sustancia fría que retrasa las penas y desmonta la prisa. Ola negra, ola blanca, mira cómo se mezclan el llanto y la risa.
by. Jeg kom opp her for å få hukt opp en ny innfartselsåre fra Russland til våre klienter som venter på ting som såre.
Du tror vi lever i et lekeland. Jeg setter kroken med agn, håper på å dra fisken i land. Nok en latterlig plan. Jeg går under radaren og sonar, men du finner meg fortsatt i gata. Kampklar, motherfucker. Jeg snakker kampklar med kniven i handa. Røyker så mye shit at det svir inn i panna. Så bare stopp, bitch, og gi meg den kanna. Jeg heiler alt over hodet ditt, sett fyr på de flammene.
Ja, så du vil fuck opp meg med pikk og kniv i rød, og de gjør jeg deg til bitcha mi. Ligg der og blø og svi.
Det her er knivstikkevisa.
Slukk lyset.
Slik kniver. Du blir skjert opp i hiv i